Hello everyone, Warhammer back with our brand new Ultimate Modded campaign, this time for the Tomb Kings. We are going to be playing as Settra. But before we get into the campaign, we're going to do a quick overview of the mods that are included and a unit showcase. There will be a link to the mod collection in the video description. Now for our mod list, the first two that we have included are Mixer, Mixers and Locker, and the mod configuration tool. These are just to enable some of the other mods. If you've never used the mod configuration tool, you can access it here in the top left corner before our campaign starts. You can adjust some of the settings if they've been enabled by the mod authors. For example, for the Tomb Kings, you can turn off some of the units or adjust some of the endgame stuff. First, we have OVN Lost World. This is a really amazing thematic mod that adds a lot of flavor to the campaign map. It adjusts the look of several of the more important settlements across the campaign map, like for example in the Tomb Kings, Khemri, the Black Tower of Archon, and the Pyramid of Nagash will all look significantly cooler. It just makes the world feel a little bit more alive. It does also add some landmarks and changes the name of some of the settlements, and you can see little bits of lore about each of the settlements, which is pretty cool. Next, we have two mods together that are the Campaign Weather Overhaul and the Battle Weather Overhaul. So these will adjust the lighting on the campaign map, and you will see more dynamic weather. For example, in the desert, you're going to see sandstorms. Near the coast, you'll see rain. Mountains, you'll see snow and things like that. It's really cool. And then for the battle side of things, it adjusts the lighting as well. Night maps will look more actually like night, so it'll be darker. Depending on where you are, the location will have snow and things like that. Overall, very, very cool. Next, we have the unique faction UI. This is a mod I really love for any race. It just makes it a little bit more thematic depending on which race you're playing as. So for the Tomb Kings, we'll see a little bit more of like the Egyptian thematic things with skulls and the monuments. Then we have our building progression icons. This is a really nice mod that I like because it adjusts the look of the building progression icons. So for example, tier 1 buildings look a little bit more simple, but as you get to higher levels and higher tiers, the icons become more elaborate. Basically, you'll just see a growth over the tiers as you level things up. Next, we have the immersive battle banners. This is just the look of several of the faction icons on the campaign map and in battle. It adds more of a thematic element to many of the faction icons, adding little lore tidbits and things like that just to make it a little bit cooler. In battle, it also adjusts the icons for some of the units, just making them a little bit more clear in what role and position they have in the army. Then for the meat and potatoes, first we have Agamuk's Tomb Kings Extended. This is really the heart and soul of this campaign. It is such an amazing mod. I think it's probably one of the best things that we've ever seen for modding it in general, actually. Now, it is a significant overhaul mod that looks at the entire race, but then also each of the major legendary lords, adds lots of new legendary characters, both lords you can start as, unlock. This will also add several new legendary characters. For example, you get some new legendary heroes, which will show off a little bit more, like Prince of Apophis. But it adjusts the faction effects, it adjusts the buildings. Vassals become much more important for the Tomb Kings, ruling over other factions and things like that. It will add several new units across the entire race, but then each lord will get access to some specialized units or recruit. This will also add a dual start to all 4 base legendary lords for the Tomb Kings, along with a ton of new regiments of renown, which are really, really cool. There's lots of really unique ones that I'm excited to show off. It adds this really cool stuff, lots of it from the Monsters Arcanum, like the Chimeric Titan and the Ushabti Great Weapons and things like that. It really does add a whole lot of flavor. Along with the pyramids, which are really important in the base game, they are actually expanded quite a bit in this mod to where they have kind of the deep system from the dwarves. So once you build those pyramids, you get access to a lot of additional buildings that are in that sub-slot. This mod also adjusts the technology tree and adds several new technologies for each of the legendary lords that are specific for them. Another thing is that it significantly reworks the Canopic Jars mechanic and makes them much more accessible, along with adjusting their economy so that you get to use them a little bit more, but you can gain them a little bit easier as well, but still makes them an important resource. Then looking at Arkan, we have Arkan the Black Expanded. So this mod specifically makes Arkan what he should have been at release, which is a true hybrid faction of other undead. So he gets much more access to Vampire Count units, and along with some of the Vampire Coast units to go along with that, he gets access to the Dead Rays again. Along with the additions to Arkan's unit roster, he also gets access to several technologies unique to him. It really, really makes his faction very, very enjoyable. And following that, we have a mod that is just a sub-mod that makes Agamuk's Tomb Kings Extended and Arkan the Black Expanded work together. Following that, we have another mod for Archon the Black. This gives him access to the lore of vampires. Another thing just to make him a truly hybrid character, hybrid faction. Works fantastic. His faction is very, very fun to play in this mod collection. Following that, we have the Mortuary Cult Improved. This works specifically for Katep. This adjusts some of his spells and skills, makes him a better caster, more akin to like a lore master for the Lore of Nehekara, which is really, really great since he's the greatest caster of that. Makes him a little bit more distinct from Settra. Next, we have Katep Lore of Light and Nehekara. So like its name implies, this gives Katep access to dual lores of the Lore of Nehekara and the Lore of Light. These dual lores work very well together and make him a much better caster like he is in the lore. Following that, we also have a mod for Khalida. This affects her Blessing of Asaph skill. This skill is a really nice passive that gives big boost to range damage, but in the base game it only has a small area of effect, which doesn't really make sense for Khalida since she's a duelist melee character. So she kind of likes to be in the thick of things and not near her backline where her missile units actually are. So this mod makes that skill map wide. Overall, it just makes her much more enjoyable, so you can actually put her into combat and still keep those nice buffs for your missile units. Following that, we have two really nice skill mods. First is the Tomb King's Expanded Hero Skill Trees. This is going to add several new skills for the base heroes, for your Necrotechs, your Tomb Princes, and your Lich Priests. It will give them a little bit more power, but once they get to a higher level, they'll have some specializations, so you can tailor their power a little bit more to your preferred playstyle. Then we have Sinja skills for the Tomb Kings. This adds some new skills for the 4 base legendary lords that basically just affect their more thematic units and give them some more bonuses to incentivize you to keep using those cool thematic units in their army even to the late game. Next, we have Lorefall mounts. This adds a lot of mount options for characters across various races who had access to them on tabletop but didn't in the base game for some reason. Specifically for the Tomb Kings, this is going to give the Tomb Princes access to the Cambrian War Sphinx mount that they had in tabletop. Next, we have interesting Tomb Kings resource buildings. This just makes some of the resources a little bit more useful to Tomb Kings. Previously, some of them didn't do anything. So you'll get a little bit of bonuses for having those, and overall just give you a little bit more incentives to actually build those faction-wide. Finally, for the Tomb King specific mods, we have the Books of Nagash redone. I really think the Books of Nagash need a complete rework, but this mod just adjusts how it is in the current game and makes them a little bit more worth it, so the bonuses you're going to get from claiming the books make them more impactful and actually make you actually want to search out and claim them. Moving on, we have our Dismemberment Overhaul mod, Ultimate All-in-One. So this is really great. This just affects the dying animations for several units across all of the races. And for the Tomb Kings, a lot of the constructs will have more elaborate and interesting death animations instead of just kind of exploding, or they can fall apart into various pieces or kind of just gradually collapse. It's really, really cool. Then our last two mods affect veterancy for the game. First is the garrison training. This makes it so that settlement garrisons naturally accrue experience every 10 turns. So they will gain 1 rank of experience every 10 turns, up to a max of rank 6 with this version of the mod. You can also find a version that goes to rank 9 if you wish. And then we have GOW's Better Veterancy. So this is a really important mod that I really love. I've used it in all my campaigns now. It adjusts how unit ranks actually affect leadership and some of the other stats, but primarily for leadership. So this makes the impact of units once they reach higher ranks much more important and makes those units that you've kept alive for a campaign or trained at a higher rank much more influential in battles. It's going to make lower tier units much more viable in the later campaign because they'll have much stronger leadership. Overall, it just makes the dynamic between high experienced armies versus low experienced armies much more impactful and much more dynamic. I really enjoy it. I actually wish this is something that Creative Assembly would incorporate into the base game because it's so good. But that is our quick overview of the mods. We will now take a look at all of the new units included in these mods. Alright guys, now looking at our unit showcase, we're going to start off with our generic characters. So the brand new generic lord is the Lich High Priest. They are available in the Lore of Death, Nehekara, and Light. They're a very good caster. They have access to some great abilities, and for mount options, they have a Royal Tomb Bark. So this is basically like a flying chariot that has some good support abilities. It can give a ward save to nearby units, and it does damage to units when it's in melee, similar to a Mortis engine. So this is similar to the Master of the Dead for the Necromancers from the Vampire Counts. So when nearby allied units die, they get access to a passive healing for nearby units that can resurrect units. For our Lich Priest, not a whole lot of changes to them, but they do get access to a Tomb Bark mount, so same abilities as the Lich High Priest, but it has significantly less armor and slightly worse melee stats. Overall, still a great mount for the Lich Priest, who's going to be more of a support role, similar to the Necrotect. You necessarily don't want them on a horse or chariot. We have our Tomb Prince. So they have access to their tabletop mount with the Cimmerian Ward Sphinx, not too much else about them. Moving on to our legendary characters, we have Prince Apophis. He's one of the coolest characters from the Tomb King's army book, so he is basically an assassin. He's very good at killing characters. He has access to the Lore of Death. He has some really cool abilities like Apophis' Demise, so if he gets really close to death, he'll basically explode and kill lots of people, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's very good in combat, very good abilities, great at disrupting enemy formations and locking down enemy characters. Next we have Harold the Calf. So he is exclusive to Settra. He is Settra's personal champion. He is an awesome combatant. He gets access to a chariot mount, but he has Guardian, pretty decent stats, and some really good abilities and skills once you get him on the campaign map. For our two legendary lords that you can start as part of Agamot's Tomb Kings Extended, we have King Nekahutun, if I pronounce his name right. So all of the legendary characters for the lords will have access to Cimmerian Ward Sphinx mounts. But I'm not going to delve too deep into their abilities. They're more on the campaign map, where you'll see their uniqueness kind of in their skills for the units they come with and buff. Then we have Prince Rakaf III, who is another one of the legendary lords you can start as with his faction of the Rakaf dynasty. Very good combatant, access to a Cimmerian Ward Sphinx, but he has Silver Shield, melee stats. Overall, really cool. Then we have Sahenizmet, the Vizier of Katara. This is actually a character I really want to see officially in a DLC. But he is a Lich High Priest who has been interred in a bone giant. So he has access to the Lore of Nehekara, but he has a monstrous mount that's very good in combat still. He's very cool. He's one of the unlockable lords you can get through a quest. Next we have King Imrethepis. So Cimmerian Ward Sphinx mount, pretty good stats. He's actually known for his War Sphinx mount because in the lore it was painted red, which you can't see in the mod, unfortunately, but it is very cool nonetheless. We have King Amenehetem. So he has access to a Cimmerian Ward Sphinx mount, but he also gets access to a Royal Tomb Bark mount, which is great for support, along with really good stats in melee for that mount, so he's a great hybrid character. We have Queen Rashut, who is a Dynasty Lord from what I remember. She has access to a Cimmerian Ward Sphinx mount, but she actually has access to a mixed Lore of Magic. She has some spells from the Lore of Nehekara, the Lore of Beasts, the Lore of Shadows, and the Lore of Light. Really cool. Great character both for support and being a hybrid character as a spellcaster. Then we have King Rupesh VII. So, pretty good offensive character, very heavily armored, gets access to a War Sphinx mount like the others. Yes, very, very good in melee. Then for our units, starting with the infantry, we have the Skeleton Warriors with dual axes, so these just become a little bit more offensive than the regular swordsmen with shields or spearmen with shields. We have some variants of the Nehekaran Warriors, a sword and shield variant rather than the dual weapons, and a halberd variant. And we have Tomb Guard with great weapons. So a little bit more offensive, more armor piercing. They do not have shields like the halberd version, so they're not quite as tough in that regard, but still very good. We have the Ancient Tomb Mummies. These are very high tier infantry. Smaller unit counts of 48 models, but very high armor for Tomb Kings especially, but magical attacks, very high weapon strength with armor piercing and anti-infantry, almost in physical resist. Then we have the Corsair Legion, which are kind of like a Navy-themed unit from Zandri. Zandri is the seat of Nehekara's naval power, so you can get access to them. We have the Skeleton Slave Laborers. These are basically like a zombie unit for the Tomb Kings. A very high model count, 240 models, but very poor stats. Just kind of a chaff unit. We have the Tomb Swarm, which are a little bit hard to see, but these are a unit on the tabletop actually, similar to the Nurglings or the Spirit Host for the Vampire counts. Very high model count, just kind of there to hold the line. To go with that very high model count, they actually cause terror as well, along with magic attacks and bonus infantry, so they can be useful if you get them against the right target. And we have the Usurian's Kepler Storm. These are flying units. Beetle unit, that's pretty high model count, bonus infantry, magical attacks. They also have the hunger too, so they heal when they're in melee. And we have Usurian's Kepler Riders. I'm not sure if these are a regiment of renown off the top of my head, because there's so many units hard to keep track of. But monstrous flying mounts with some missile attacks similar to like plague drones or rot flies. Poison attacks, magical damage, and armor piercing. Then we have the Bastethi, who are kind of similar to like Warhounds, so no armor but pretty decent stats. A little bit more expendable. They only have 32 models, but they have access to some nice abilities. For Covenant of Power, that gives power recharge for your Winds of Magic. They also have access to the Swarm of the Tomb Guard, which is cool. So if they get below 50% health, they actually spawn a unit of Tomb Swarms, which is pretty cool. Then we have the Greater Bastethi. This is a single entity model, so kind of similar to like a Snow Leopard. Pretty decent stats, not too much armor though, but it does have Discouraged on its melee attack, so really good at breaking units if you can use them correctly, along with Devastating Flanker. We have our Bolt Thrower for artillery. This is similar to most other bolt throwers, so it's anti-large, 8 models, so gonna be okay, but it's not super accurate, but still gonna be useful. We have our Tomb Bark, which we showed off a little bit earlier. So this is a flying chariot that does magic attacks, has bonus infantry and armor piercing, but it has some great swarm abilities, but it has some great support abilities with the hieroglyphs of protection, giving ward save to nearby units, and that area of effect damage when it's in melee. It is flying, but yeah, you will want to keep it in melee if you can support it with other units so it doesn't take too much damage. Then we have the Sand Snakes. These are basically a different version of Sepulchral Stalkers that is more melee focused. So they don't have the ranged attack, but they have very good offensive stats and defensive stats. So better in melee than the regular version, but they have magic and flaming attacks and bonus infantry along with armor piercing. So a little bit of a trade-off, losing that ranged attack, but still very good. At the Serpent Guard, so more of an elite model of the Necropolis Knights. No riders, but they do poison damage. They have magic missiles, really high weapon strength. Overall, very, very good, fast, very cool unit. One of my favorites, we have the Ushabti Ancients. These are basically a slightly more elite version of the normal Ushabti, but they get great weapons and a bonus of large, along with Sundering Armors. They're very good at taking down high armor targets. If you get them in the right thing, they're going to devastate anything they can get their hands on. We have the Skeleton War Elephant, which kind of, as you think, is similar to the Mammoths. So pretty good at charging stuff, bonus infantry. Big target though, so you have to watch out for that. We have the Necrolith Colossus, which is the melee version of the Bone Giant that we had on the tabletop. So flaming attacks, bonus infantry, armor piercing, like you think. Pretty durable, but you will want to support it with other units because it is such a big target. It does cause terror, and it has monstrous charge, so it breaks the brace of defenders and only loses half its charge bonus. You have the Hyro Titan with a Colossus bow. So this is unique to Kalida's faction. So instead of the regular Hyro Titan, you get a Hyro Titan with a bow, similar to Bone Giant. So very, very cool variant. Very awesome. Muscle attacks, monsters large, along with its bound abilities like the normal version. Then we have the Chimeric Titan. Really, really cool unit. My favorite from the Monsters Arcanum. It is basically like an army into itself. It is a massive construct. There's a limited quantity you can build. They are recruited from a landmark that you can build across several settlements in the Hekara, but very good unit by itself, but also has some great support abilities, has some bounce spells, along with a heal for itself and big boost to its damage. But it also supports nearby units. It augments your power recharge. It reduces enemy leadership. It's overall very, very good. Tier 5 unit, takes a while to get, but very worth it. You'll really, really like it once you get access to it. Then we have the Skeleton Coltrane Riders. So these are unique to Katep. He has two variants, the regular version and the Heaven Coltrane Riders, which have much more armor and bronze shields. So they get access to poison damage and bonus to lard. It's a pretty cool cavalry variant. I'm very excited to see them. I really wish we could get the Lisman variant, actually. And we have the Acolytes of Asaph. You can actually get them in 3 different variants. This is the Beauty, Magic, and Vengeance. You can get the Sun and the Light version, which is kind of a combination of the Lore of Light and the Lore of the Hekar that do flaming attacks. But really, really cool elite units. They have regeneration. These are Katep exclusives as well. But short range missile attack with burnt, so it does reduce enemy leadership. They have regeneration and vigor mortis, so they very good support unit in that regard. We have the cultists. These are, I believe, a tier 5 unit for Katep. For infantry, again, support units, this is the Sun and Light version, so kind of from Petra, they have access to Burning Alignment, so similar to the Stegadon, Ancient Stegadon of the Gods, Engine of the Gods, so pretty cool abilities like that. They have supporting abilities, they have Encourage, Fire Resist, which is great for Tomb Kings. Getting onto some of our regiments of renown, we have Ramatep's Lizard Riders. These are cool, these are from the lore in the Gas trilogy, so these are basically Tomb Guard on top of some cold ones, so very, very cool. Anti-large armor piercing with very good stats, very good armor for Tomb Kings. They have Frenzy, Death Blow, and Berserk, which just makes them awesome. Very, very cool. Alright, so now we come to my favorite one. We have the Hyro Scorpion of Khemri. This is basically like a regiment of renown of the Chimeric Titan. It is exclusive to Settra, but it's freaking awesome. It is like a army into itself, so it has some of the same bound spells, but it also has a skeleton summon with 7 uses against its heal. Terror like normal, the Storm of the Tomb Guardian for that Tomb Sword summon when it gets low health. It really is just amazing. It's very, very cool. Alright, finishing off our unit showcase, we're going to look at some more. There are so many we couldn't fit it into one army. So we have another variant of the Skeleton Spearmen, this time with javelins. So they are anti-large and melee and anti-large missiles, but not very much ammunition. We have Nehekar and Archers, so kind of a mid-tier option for that. We have Tomb Guard Archers, which I believe are exclusive to Khalida in the Court of Libaras. We have Royal Archers, which are a very high elite version of Tomb Guard. They are, again, are exclusive to Khalida. We have the Dragonmen staffs with these are a unit that I don't necessarily like because of the lore they're associated with. They come from the Nagash trilogy as well. They're basically Nehekarn soldiers with Cathayan gunpowder. Use them if you want. I don't really like them, but they're pretty decent. Short range. They're basically like the Cathayan Ironhull Gunners, pretty similar to that. And we have the Royal Guard, who are exclusive to Settra, Katep, and Khalida. So they're a hybrid unit, so very good in melee, while they still have a great muscle attack, 165 range. Not too much armor piercing, but it is very high base strike damage. We have the Royal Chariot Guards. These are awesome. These are exclusive to Settra. They are basically Tomb Guard chariots, so same amount of armor, but very high leadership, much better combat stats. They have devastating flanker. We have our Skeleton Horsemen, so another low-tier cavalry option, this time with sword and shield. We have the Nehekarn Horse Archers, so just slightly higher tier than the regular Skeleton Archers. Then we have Tomb Guard Horsemen. We have 2 variants. We have the Great Sword variant, which have more armor piercing and bonus infantry, and the Halberd, which trade that for shields and anti-large. We have the Nehekarn Knights, which are a very high tier cavalry option. So lore model count 48 models, but they have silver shields and great armor at 80, along with magic attacks and armor piercing. Very, very useful. We have the Carrying Raiders, which I believe are a regiment of renown or a unit that are in limited quantity, but they are very, very cool. So only 30 armor, but they are basically like great eagles. So very good offensive stats, very high weapon strength, very good armor piercing, along with some bound abilities. They have bound Spirit Leech and Curse of Kassar to reduce enemy armor, along with the Hunger, so great melee for that reason, and Power Recharge, along with Monster's Charge, so they break through bracing, and still deal half of their charge bonus to braced units. But they also have this. They have the Ulap's Curse of Flesh, so very good thing that affects enemies when they're melee. It recharges over time, so you will have to keep them in combat in order to use it multiple times. Then, looking at Archon the Black specifically, so as part of the Archon the Black expanded mod, he actually gets access to a zombie dragon mount, which kind of makes sense because Archon's one of the best casters in the lore, so he's pretty amazing. He gets access to that, which makes him awesome, a little bit more distinct than the other Tomb King Legendary Lords. He has access to some unique units that are kind of just different variants of the regular ones. So we have the Fallen Monarch, which is like a Tomb King. But for his Lich Priest, they're called Hierophants, Dread Hierophants, and he actually gets access to one with the lore of vampires, which is really awesome. Works really well with his faction, with access to not only Tomb King units, but the rest of the undead that benefits from the bonuses that the lore of vampires gives. Through his research tree, he can actually get 2 semi-legendary lords, legendary character who is a Shriggle Ghoul King, and a Necroarch Tomb King Lord, which is pretty cool. He has a unique model with the scythe and a, not quite a Kopesh, but a pretty cool longsword. He gets access to some more Vampire Chaos units, so he gets access to Cryptors, the Black Coach, more Dissension, which is very, very nice for him, Terrorgeist, Cairn Wraiths, and Hex Wraiths, along with Graveguard and all its variants, but he has some unique versions. He has the Nagashazar Guard, which have much better combat stats along with better leadership. And this is just the regular version, that's the Regiment of Renown. But he also gets access to some of the Vampire Coast units like the Rotting Leviathan, the regular version of Depth Guard, no halberds, and some of their basic units like the handguns with pistols and I believe the hand cannons. None of the more advanced artillery though, so just kind of the regular undead. Looking at some other regiments of renown, we have the Spolkrex. These are the Nagash themed Ushabti. So, like normal Ushabti, very good weapon strength, armor piercing, melee stats, but they actually have access to some bound abilities like Soul Stealer, Soul Blight, and Choose to Die, so you can get them into down and dirty combat and have them survive even if they get low HP, which is pretty cool. So, very good support characters along with being great offensive ones. We have the Legion of the Crescent Serpent, who are a Tomb Guard Archer regiment of renown. So they have access to the blessing of the heirs of this half, so they get some pretty good range bonuses because of that, along with a unique poison too. That actually does damage over time, not just the regular version that does debuff, it actually does damage as well, which is very awesome. The Vulture Legion, these are another unit that I don't remember if they're Regiment of Renown, but they're not no more recruitment. They have short bows and flaming attacks, so it can be pretty devastating if you get on the right target. This is another cool Regiment of Renown, the Defiled Chosen. So these are a mix between Ushabti and Cryptors that were one of the first to serve Nagash, so pretty cool. Really like their model. But that is our unit showcase. So let's jump right into the campaign portion.
See, Father, I command. I am my father's son. I, Settra the Imperishable, King of Kings, Lord of the Shifting Sands, eternal ruler of mankind, rest no longer. Nehekara will be restored to greatness.
Alright. Alright guys, Warhammer here with our brand new Settra campaign for the Tomb Kings. So as you guys will see, as soon as you start a campaign with the 4 base legendary lords for the Tomb Kings, you will get a option for a dual start. For Settra, we can sell to Bretonia for the Nemesis crown, which is pretty cool. Every one of these dual starts will give you an extra army capacity so that you can still keep your territory in your normal starting location and kind of explore that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to send Settra to Bretonia. So this will be interesting to fight Bretonia, because like normally you have some of them here in like Xandria and stuff. But it's interesting to actually go to Bretonia itself. But for Settra, he starts with Harold Nakaf, who is his personal champion. He's a pretty good combatant, has some cool skills, pretty good in melee. And he also starts with the Tomb Prince, who, like our mod said, does have access to a Cameron War Sphinx mount now. But we have this greenskin army in the way too. We actually start at war with the Fey Enchantress. I thought it'd be a minor Bretonian faction. That's very interesting. So part of this mod from Agamot's Tomb Kings Extended is that Settra and Ark in the Black are at permanent war. They can't ever have peace between them. So we will have to watch out for that down south. In our technology tree, you'll see that it has been expanded a little bit, so each of the lords will get one of these. Additional 4 in each of the dynasties. That give you some bonuses. And the endgame has been adjusted a little bit. So for Settra, he gets this one, Dynasty of a Million Years. But let's look at actually what we want to do in our first battle. So if we go after the Fey Enchantress right now, it'd be easier because she doesn't have the Paladin in the army. But we are going to have trouble with the Grill Guardians because we don't have a... we have the halberds, but we don't have great tools to deal with them, so it's probably going to be pretty difficult. So let's go right away after her. Pyrrhic Victory. Yeah, we would lose a lot, I'm going to guess. Yes, so we're going to have to do our best to deal with these things. The only 3 things that we really need to worry about are the Trebuchets, the Grill Guardians, and the Battle Pilgrims. Fey Enchantress doesn't have a lot of spells yet. She does have access to some healing still, so we'll have to watch out for that. But we'll try to use our chariots to wreck the back line. Let's go for it, Bretonia. We have our first battle of our Settra campaign. We sailed to Bretonia. Now we actually fight a pretty significant army led by the Fey Enchantress. She has her Blessed Field Trebuchets, but she also has some Grill Guardians. And Grill Guardians are the tankier version. They're not the charge variant of the Grill Knights, but they're still really, really tough. They have a ward save, perfect vigor. But for us, we've got 2 units of Tomb Guard with halberds. They're going to be our key to winning this battle against those guys. Chariots on the side, 2 skeleton chariots with archers. We're going to try to get around the back, try to pepper these guys a little bit, hopefully get around and get into their back line. We did deploy both of our Tomb Guard on this side, hopefully to draw on the Grill Guardians and fight them. But Settra and his Tomb Prince are going to go after them since they are anti-large. The Calf is going to lead the other infantry since he is bonus infantry. We'll try to get him on top of the Fey Enchantress since she is a small entity. But some peasant archers trying to pepper in some shots now. So we're going to return fire, although some of our shots are going to get blocked by the trees. Grill Guardians do not fall for our trap, though. They're going to go back and go after our chariots, which is bad because they will get absolutely wrecked by those guys. We got spearmen, men-at-arms. We also have some Battle Pilgrims. There's Awakening the Wood going down from the Fey Enchantress, trying to use some early damage to us, but Tomb Guard gonna start making the way through these guys. I'm gonna pull over another one pretty soon because those Grill Guardians are gonna be really, really nasty. We switch over our archers, try to pepper them a little bit, weaken them as best we can. They're gonna start killing chariots very, very quickly, though. Yeah, all 12 models are still there, but they've lost a third of their HP, and they'll start, losing some chariots very, very quickly. This unit did manage to escape. We pulled them in opposite directions, so it's going to go for the jugular in the back line, shut down some of these archers and the trebuchets. Enchantress and the calf having a good old duel, though. Oh, where'd she go? Oh, there she goes. We have, Settra's ability and a nice kill animation right there, too, on one of the Bretonnian peasants. But we're going to try to put all of our heavy, hard-hitting guys onto Enchantress Killer as soon as possible, because she does have access to the Blessing of the Lady, which gives nearby ward save, but also she does damage per second when she's in melee to our units. We really got to watch out for that. But Grove Guardians, we tried to pull over some of our Tomb Guard to come help. Settra's coming with his anti-large, but these those skeletons got kind of decimated with those other chariots. They lived with 8 models left, but yeah, these Tomb Guard are really struggling despite being a counter to this unit. But Settra's there giving my will be done. That's an extra little bit of melee boost to them, and some archers peppering them, which is actually going to take them down pretty quickly, actually. Luckily for us, they're using Lance Dance, which lowers the melee defense. But chariots are running amok in the background. Front lines going pretty well for us, although these skeleton warriors not doing very well, though. But peasant mobs, some spearmen with shields, battle pilgrims somewhere, which I'm going to try to find them, show them off a little bit. But they're actually a unit I think are really cool. They're pretty underrated. They have Frenzy, and pretty good melee stats, and decent armor. So they can do really well if you put them against the right target, which is like the Skeleton Warriors. They're actually going to wreck these guys, which you see these guys don't go down very quickly. But Grove Guardians, we did manage to push off for a while, got them down to 13 models, very low HP, just over 1,000 left, but they're going to go after some of our chariots again, who are wrecking some of these peasant bowmen in the back. Enchantress does finally get low enough to give up and shatters. We're going to try to finish her off. She goes down. And we use the rest of that time to chase off some units and kill them off the best we can. That was pretty difficult, actually. Those Grove Guardians were nasty. But quite a hurt on our Tomb Guard with halberds. But we killed the Enchantress. I did try to chase off everything that I could at the end of the battle, just in case this army doesn't get wiped out, which I don't think it will. So, Tomb Kings do struggle in early battles. And I want to make sure we don't lose any of our important units, so I'm going to take the heal. Yeah, having to fight that battle without the Paladin was a big win for us. Now, I could probably go into Entombed Beneath the Sands to get access to global recruitment, but I think it's going to take us 2 turns, no matter what. Leveling up Settra, we want to go after the Restless Dead right away because we don't have access to a mage yet, so we want to get that passive heal for casting. Plus, the upgraded version of Jeff's Incantation of Curse Blades actually makes it anti-large, which will be very useful against Bretonnia. Both our Tomb Prince and the calf will get access to training. I think we'll do Nakaf first, and we'll have you go to Canopic Jara Hoarders. Alright. If we wanted to, we could wipe out this guy too, but I don't think he has any settlements. Yeah. But Carcassonne is going to be really hard to take without extra units. So, 2 turns of global recruitment. That's really... I don't think we can do that, actually. I think we just have to risk it and go after losing some units, because they're going to spawn a new army there, and hopefully they don't put the Paladin in. If they don't get the Paladin, we should have a much easier time taking the city. But for our first technology, Settra gets access to royal chariots and bonuses for chariots in his army. Which, let's look at his unique skills real fast. So most of them are still the same, so he'll get capacity for Tomb Princes, capacity for Tomb Guard, Chariots, tomb barks. Yes, he does get bonuses for chariots. We will want to recruit more of them. So yes, let's go after stuff that buffs chariots first. Charge bonus, ammunition, melee attack, melee defense. That's usually pretty good. So we'll go after the first dynasty. And back in the south in Kimry, we need to start another army down here. We have access to one of the legendary lords from Agamuk's mod right away. We have Amenhetem, who is the Vulture Lord. So he'll be our second army down here that will deal with the vampire counts and stuff like that. As you can see, this actually has been adjusted, so it's its own separate province now for Numis. So they are not a starting enemy anymore. So it's pretty cool there. Let's get you some... Settra has access to 2 chariots already, so let's take those from here. And at Kimry, so for the pyramids, like I said, once you build them, you'll get access to pyramid complexes, which is like the deeps, so you'll get access to some buildings in a sub-slot. But for Kimry, what do we actually want to build? This will give us some of these other units, along with here, recruit rank. Shop the ancients at the last. I think we just want to go growth as fast as we can. Because Tomb Kings usually have pretty poor growth. And I want to get to some of our cooler units a little bit faster. Oh, this is something I did forget too, is that the Tomb Kings get access to some scrap-like mechanics. So a lot of these require technologies, and they cost canopic jars to actually upgrade. So it's a much more valuable resource than it is in the base game. I should have looked through diplomacy. Yeah, wiping out the Fey Enchantress will be good and bad. Bad because it will piss off the rest of Bretonnia, but good because we won't have to deal with her later. She's the only real serious spellcaster for Bretonnia. Lewin, on the other hand, is going to be a nightmare. Because he is, what, anti-large, even when he's on Beaky? He's just a nightmare because he gets regeneration. He's a Grail Knight, so he gets perfect vigor and things like that. They brought in the Paladin. That's... Oh, come on! Greenskins, you stole my thunder. Ooh, Rumblings in the Palace of Corpses. So, Sahena's event, he is the High Lich Priest who is interred in a Bone Giant. So we want to get him as soon as possible. We need to build a Palace of Corpses, which I think is a tier 4 main settlement. And we can get Prince of Pophis once we have built up the Scarab City, which I think is tier 3. But yeah, since we can't do anything about this guy at the moment, we're just going to go into the Entombed Beneath the Sands. We'll actually do some global recruitment. We'll stop the global recruitment with our other army. Which one's global? I don't remember. It's the blue one. No, wrong one. So it's this one. Okay, that's fine.
Submit my glory.
And we get access to a Casket of Souls once we have 20 units. So that's good to keep in mind. So this is another one of the legendary lords, King Nehekataten, however you pronounce that. He leads the Army of the Golden Scarab, which is kind of interesting. Because they act like... Oh, never mind. Rakaf over here, he acts like a Skaven, to where they are hidden in ruins. But he's going to fight Skarbrand, which usually means that he loses. But, okay, let's see if we can get some money out of any political agreements. It doesn't look like it. So, we'll just do our best to Keep sending stuff up there. Brion. Maybe we should have kept the second army there so we could recruit, but these guys will probably attack with our support, and we can decline joining, and that will probably get them wiped out and weaken Carcassonne as well. So it's a win-win if that goes like that. Grom the Paunch doing some work already. Yeah, so we could join him, but I think it's more valuable to decline. He'll get wiped out. We'll still get our healing. Are we sure? What? Oh, it's because it pushed us out of range of the city. Okay. Dang, if we would have gone just slightly out, we could have kept our replenishment, so... Well, they didn't did they just get pushed off somewhere?
What you ask is
Look in diplomacy. Yeah, apparently they wiped him out and didn't take any damage, so that's bad. But we'll have our work cut out for us on this one. We do have access to upgraded version of a spell, but no healing yet, so we'll have to do our best. Britonia, we're taking them on in a siege battle. And they've got another thing of trebuchets in the garrison, several men-at-arms. I don't think there's any peasant mobs, but some peasant bowmen and a knights errant. We have deployed our chariots on the far side. You're going to try to get through these gates, come around for some rear charges, hopefully. But the garrison is being led by a level 6 lord, which is pretty bad for us. He does have access to Flock of Doom, which is great against skeletons because we have low armor. And a paladin who had not joined Carcassonne in our battle against the Fey Enchantress, but he did join this army when it went into the city to garrison it. So right off the bat, we're going to try to move our units up. We need to get under the cover of the walls as soon as possible to avoid those trebuchet shots. But the archers are going straight for Settra, which is not great because he does not have a shield, unlike our Tomb Prince. So we're going to try to juke some of those shots best we can. Our own skeleton archers will return fire on them, try to scare them off. But yeah, they're trying to do as much damage to Settra as they can, which is smart because he is probably the biggest threat in this army. Our Tomb Guard will be very key at fighting off all the Bretonian infantry. Normally I don't like climbing walls because it completely drains your vigor. But I think our stats are good enough that we can still fend these guys off, and we want to get these archers off the walls as soon as possible. But yes, Settra's taking about a third of his HP damage already, which is not great. The calf and our Tomb Prince still kind of hurt from that first battle. They were about half HP, but they'll still do okay. Because both of the Bretonian characters are mounted, they can't fight on the walls. That's part of the reason I want to fight up here too. We'll be able to wear down a lot of the Bretonian units before their good units, like the Knights Errant, can actually come help them. They did leave one thing of spearmen with shields over here, but our chariots get through the walls not too slowly, so that'll be nice. But Settra, he's just going to try to help out these skeleton warriors. Try to get through the gate as soon as we can. I'm not too worried about climbing down and occupying the gate for the extra bit of momentum, just because I don't think it's necessary, and getting down on the ground is actually probably a mistake. But the trebuchets are trying to hit our Tomb Guard. Looks like they're just barely managing to get over the building, which is not great, because they're actually getting some nice shots off. Killed a few of our guys already, but luckily for us, it is kind of a terrible position for them, so yeah, and that's crazy. There we go, all the shots are blocked now. That's awesome. That's what we were trying to do, hide behind the walls. Our archers starting to go after some of theirs in the back. Some of these men-at-arms that are coming up, but let's take a closer look up here. Tomb Guard, men-at-arms, pretty good battle at the moment. We have the calf right there with his banner. Tomb Prince as well, get some nice kills off. And we actually had the banner bearer for the Tomb Guard is there as well. But about a third of the way through the gates on this side, they are starting to pepper some Marines over there, and a flock of demons is going to come down very shortly, which is not great. But Settra is buffing all these units with My Will Be Done, so despite that bigger lowering their stats quite a bit, that bonus from that passive is really going to help out in this battle. But we're just about through the gates. First things of chariots have started to come in. The Knights Errant will be kind of bad matchup for us, but we're going to try to do our best to get on some of these range units in the back. But, yep. Settra decides he's had enough down there. He's going to try to climb up and help us out in a little bit as well. If he can actually get on the ladder, but the calf pretty cool though. 10 kills so far. Our Tomb Prince 15. And with our archers, we tried to target down these fully help the men-at-arms on the side since they're trying to get our Tomb Guard a little bit on the flank on the wall. But with our chariots coming now, they're sending over this prophetess, not damsel, with the Knights Errant. She is a Lord of Beastcaster, so she will have access to Wissen's Wild Form, which can actually be a really, really big problem for us against the chariots. That big boost in armor and damage is going to severely hurt us, so we want to avoid that at all costs if possible. But the Paladin's still hanging around down there. Some of our Skeleton Warriors snuck through the gates due to the gate bug, of course. They're trying to come and attack some of these guys, but up on the walls we've done pretty well so far. Tomb Guard has taken a little bit of damage, some of it from range fire, some of it from the artillery earlier on, but the walls are almost under our control now. We'll be able to push off, take control of this gate, and position ourselves to where we can get a better fight against the cavalry. Yes, that Knights Errant with that big buff from the Lord of Beastcaster gonna start decimating these chariots, so we're gonna pull off this one as quick as we can because they started the battle damaged. This one had full models, so we had them take the brunt of the charge because I don't want these guys to be wiped out, but we don't want to stay there because they will actually get savaged by those Knights Errant. So we're going to try to pull them off. They are pretty quick. So we'll do our best to evade the Bretonian cavalry as long as possible. Settra down and dirty with the infantry now, getting his explosion off. I always forget what it's called. Yeah, Ratha Petra. Petra is the sun god of Nehekara. And we've taken the walls. Tomb Guards going to start getting down on the ground now. We'll take out these men-at-arms. And Fear is actually doing a fair amount at weakening these spearmen with shields. They're getting that negative leadership penalty from the Fear, which is pretty cool. Although Siege Defender is what's holding them up right now. So our archers are trying to pepper down their peasant archers, but we've used up almost all of our ammunition. Our chariots have managed to get away a little bit. These guys, 7 models, but they are still running away. We're trying to force them down as fast as possible. We'll see whether they survive in the replay. Sometimes that does get affected, and siege replays aren't quite as accurate sometimes, but we're going to use these other guys, try to shut down these field trebuchets and archers as soon as we can. We've made pretty good progress down here. Our Tomb Guard are exposed in the back though, so they're going to take a little bit of fire from that, which is not ideal. But as soon as we shut down these guys, they'll go down very quickly. They've started to lose a lot of health, and once one of them breaks, the other ones will probably break as well. We do throw down the Curse of Dejah from our Tomb Prince to rampage them. But these chariots managed to push through, shut down the field trebuchets, which is awesome. These other guys lived with 5 models. Very low HP though, so we're going to try to bring them down close to Settra for that extra leadership bonus from our characters. They've corralled kind of the last little bit of guys over here, starting to build up barricades to keep us from getting in with their infantry, but our chariots will do some nice work down here. No spearmen. So far, all these guys are just sword and shield, so that's good for us on that front. But the Bretonian Paladin, along with the Knights Errant coming down, try to reinforce over there. So we're not going to stay too long. Chariots are trying to get through. We do manage to push past and get over this barricade just in time, which is nice. Well, the one model looks like they might get trapped behind, but we'll see. Sometimes if some units are on the point while it's being built, it won't go up completely, which is nice because it's keeping our units from being separated at the moment. But our other chariot came down the other way, get some nice charges over here. Let's take a look at their kills. 39 kills, 40, and 51 of these guys, despite being pretty heavily damaged. We've shut down the trebuchets, which has been very nice. Over here, we're bringing up Settra and the Tomb Prince with their anti-large. And the Tomb Guard will try to set up and get them bracing for that expert charge defense. Oh no, they only have charge defense first large, not expert charge defense, but we want that charge reflection. So we're going to try to set them up. Settra tries to use Rethpatra to hold back these Knights Errant for a little bit, so these guys don't quite get their charge resist off. But these ones I think will. But Flock of Doom coming down on us, not great. Our Tomb Guard are already pretty damaged, so they are getting very low on health. Chariots managed to do some good damage over here, but they have no way to get back on top of these guys with the barricades finished now. Nekef is trying to help out, finish off some of these men-at-arms, but it looks like he scared them off for a little bit. We have no way to deal with these guys right now. Some of their units are starting to come off, but our archers are trying to pepper them as much as we can, shut down the range firepower. That paladin gets rocked absolutely by our three characters. Well, I guess Nekef is not quite here yet, but Settra and the Tomb Prince with their anti-large do some great work, kill him very, very quickly. Another big flocking coming down though. But Settra has been very good with the Disaster Incantation of Cursed Blades though. It's a 25% damage boost, but if we overcast it, it actually gives anti-large as well, which can be very nice taking out these Knights Errant. Trying to use some of these chariots to tie down the Prophetess while we can, so our characters can catch up. But these Skeleton Warriors coming back, since some of the units were trying to climb over the walls and come at us in melee, that looks like they may get an error due to the pathing AI, since they pulled back over the walls, but we're still doing okay. These chariots kind of made a mistake right there. I thought we could get these guys before they braced. These guys have 5 models and very low HP, so it's not going to be a great fight. We're going to try to get in the back, but we have our other chariots coming out to help. But these guys, yeah, taking damage very, very quickly. We're going to try to pull them out before we lose too much. Prophetess did get caught by Settra and the Tomb Prince, with our Tomb Guard coming in, and we will shatter her most likely. She does break, but not quite shattered. But Tomb Guard come over to help fight these spearmen. These guys are the ones that were over on the walls, clear over there, so they're still basically full health. But the chariots have managed to escape and get on some of these units in the back now. 2 of these archers that are heavily damaged still holding out. But these men-at-arms coming after some of our archers in the back. We have run out of ammunition. Basically, these guys have 2 shots left. These guys don't have any. But the Prophetess just manages to barely escape, and she comes back with 10 leadership, a little less than 700 HP, but we don't have the speed to catch her without our chariots, so we're just going to try to pool our resources over here and go after some of these Spearmen Knights Errant with half their models still active. Going to come and try to get some good charge off on the chariots, but our mass will keep them protected. We don't want to lose these Tomb Guards, so I'm pulling them back. We don't want to actually lose them because they're very key in our early campaign, etc. These Skeleton Archers going down very, very quickly, though. In melee, they're not good at all. Even against men-at-arms who have terrible stats, but... The calf coming over to come help our Tomb Prince, though. We kept him on top of the Prophetess, and he actually does manage to break her once again. Well, I don't know if he can shatter her. It's getting pretty close, though. Once this unit of Spearmen goes down, they will probably give up on the garrison. We have Earl Stoles still providing some healing for us, but we're not even close actually getting our Saptu setting. So still a while away. We lost most of our infantry in that first battle. We lost some skeleton archers, or skeleton warriors, but we finally get the victory. Very, very low though. Well, that was a really close battle. Almost lost some of our units, but we came out on top. We could subjugate them as a vassal, but I want the rest of this province. Because that way we can heal up and recruit some more. For Settra, let's get into Hekarn Warriors. They'll be fantastic. I'm actually going to go 2 spears since we're against Betonia, and I need a little bit more front line, especially since our Tomb Guard is so damaged. But let's get the Restless Dead. Then, what else do we want to do? Save stuff for rank 10 probably, because he can get some really good ones that require multiple points. I think that's what we're going to do. A calf. Let's go for Kinetic Charge right away, since they're much more valuable in this one. Ooh, and we can get some global recruitment now too. Yeah, I want to get Settra kitted out as fast as possible. So for this guy, he gets bonuses to carrying, which is pretty cool. We can't recruit any of them yet, but we'll get some eventually. But he doesn't have anything strong enough to take on the vampires yet, so he'll still keep building up his army. Once we can get some Tomb Princes with Settra skills, then we'll recruit a few down here. But we don't care about the Sandstorm. Carcassonne, we didn't do our Province ability. Control and corruption, movement range. Let's do... They're probably going to come up to Quenelles first. So let's get one more turn of replenishment since we are pretty low and we're doing some global recruitment. That sounds like a plan. Okay, yeah. As far as enemies, I don't think we want to piss off the Wood Elves, because Wood Elves are a huge counter the Tomb Kings until we get constructs, because they're just too fast for us to catch most of the time, and they have really good armor piercing with the Eternal Guard. Skeletal Skeed, Heresy. Oh, Nakef got hit one of his items, so he gets his magic weapon, melee attack, magical attacks, weapon strength, armor piercing damage. Pretty good. We can get our Casket of Souls now, which we want to do. These guys are global recruitment, I think. Yes, so we're not going to get the bonuses from recruitment, but we will do it anyway, even though it costs a crap ton, because it will benefit our other army down south recruitment as well. So recruit this right now so I don't forget, because I've done that before. Get some more spearmen. And you... We don't really need archers too much to fight vampire counts, but it can be useful when they have fell bats and stuff like that. Let's build up Kimmery though, to 2-2.
Address me as your highness.
2. Yeah, let's finish off Kinetic Charge right away. You can get the next point of training, next level up. Been interesting starting in Bretonia as Settra, because like he has kind of similar enemies. You'll have, yeah, of course Bretonia, but then you have vampire counts with Kemmler. I guess the big thing is you're facing significant Bretonian enemies. You're not facing any just minor factions, because Rapan sometimes you have to fight as Settra, but most of the time she's dealt with by Arcan. The Casket of Souls is going to be very useful, though. Then with those big blobs of Bretonian infantry. Okay, we are losing magic, though, so on our way up to Quenelles, I'm going to go into channeling stats. We're at full health, so we don't need to worry about that. Ooh, Orion. Okay, I'm going to switch this over to the bonus movement range. I forgot, he does start at war with Quinnell's Paravon. So that could be bad. Actually, I didn't see. He does not like us very much. He doesn't like Carcassonne. I mean, he doesn't like us going to war with Carcassonne, which is interesting. Okay, well, I guess we could come this way and go after Greenskins. Yeah, because the problem with going to the Wood Elves is that we're never going to be able to invade there for a while.
My dynasty. On your knees.
Let's finish out your army first.
A bold strategy.
We'll see what happens here, though. I think he sacked it the turn before because his army was kind of damaged, so we'll see whether he occupies it or not. If he occupies it, I might take advantage and attack him. Because dealing with the Wood Elves sooner rather than later is ideal. Because once they've built up Athelorn quite a bit, it's impossible to take it out because the garrisons get super strong. The Oak of Ages will always be kind of difficult, but if we can take it out, then we'll be immune to Athelor attrition. He's gonna heal up most of the way. Yeah. Is the other army? You've got one more turn of recruitment. Oh, this guy's actually done pretty well. Him and Scarbrand are going at it, but he's taken the rest of the stuff. Gorgazon. Let's look in diplomacy real fast.
Our dynasties are compatible.
Those. And something I forgot to mention earlier is that Settra does get the opportunity to confederate the other Tomb King's factions. It's not through the diplomacy. You can only do it through the mortuary cult, through a fair amount of gold, canopic jars, and some trading resources, but it's a nice little feature for that. I think Settra, I think we do want to go after Orion. Because we have chariots to get in his back line now. He doesn't have too much front line, so we should be able to push in. I think that's our best bet. So we will declare war. Actually, let's get his... Let's get this guy to pay us to join the war. 1,400? Yes, that's a fair amount for the Tomb Kings. Yes, please. Yeah, we caught some of them off guard. That'll be a great spot to end episode 1, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll continue this in episode 2. Have some fun against the Wood Elves. I'm Warhammer. Have a great day, guys.